Hello, my name is Joseph Carlson, and this is episode 204 of Game with Grief. And I'm calling this episode How to Say Goodbye Spoilercast, kind of. But before we begin, I want to remind you guys that this podcast will hit my website, www.gamewithgrief.com, at Monday morning at 7 a.m. So please go there and leave a comment. Let me know what you think of the show. You can also subscribe to the show on either Apple iTunes, the Google Play Store, Spotify, and Amazon Music. And on Spotify, the video of the podcast goes up Monday afternoon. So if you want to go there and watch the video, that'd be great. You could also, write to me at gwgpodfellows@gmail.com and interact with me on Twitter at JustLittleJoe. So those are the places you can interact with me. So, before we get going, just to let you know, I tried to beat this game. I had a game-breaking bug happen right at the last chapter 10 out of 15. I saw a walkthrough for this. Each chapter, if you can figure the puzzles out, are actually pretty short. But right at the last minute, I had a game-breaking bug. I went on Steam. There was a lot of reports of, not similar, but bugs kind of throughout the game. And some people were stuck. Things wouldn't load. If you exit out of the game and enter back into the game, from what I experience, is you lose all progress in that level. You have to complete the puzzles in the level to go on. So I didn't try backing out and going back in. They said they released a patch, but basically I was kind of locked out of progressing. So I guess what I can talk about is what I know about the game. I watched... there's very little gameplay footage of this game, but there is a website that I'll put in the show notes that I went to watch a replay of that, or a walkthrough when I was having a problem with the puzzles. I'll say this, in my initial impressions, I talked about how this was kind of styled after a children's book, and I think that is through and through. That to the very end, the art style is very I'd say simple, but I don't think that's a negative. I think what it is it's trying to tell this almost storybook tale of someone dealing with death. And I think, although I didn't see the very last chapter, you really just help other ghosts like yourself move on by completing these puzzles and meeting them. I think I read the website, the official website for the game, and they do talk about acceptance and kind of loss. I'll say this, there wasn't a big, obviously I didn't see the 15th chapter, which I think is like the epilogue. I didn't see a big emotional punch, but what I did see is like this really subtle layering of grief. And I think it is best told in this storybook format because you can keep the dialogue very simple. And I do think this would be a good tool to show kids, maybe if they're experiencing grief for the first time, because it's written in a way it doesn't try to hit you over the head with themes. It just says, this person has moved on, that you've helped. And I think that's really powerful. And I was trying to think of another game that I reviewed. I think it was, I can't think of that. Well, there was the one I did on the iPhone, A Part of Me was very good, where they had testimonials from kids who had, experienced grief, and they were like talking, they're being interviewed, and it's audio, and you go to this island, you complete these like grief challenges kind of, where people just talk about how they deal with everything. And I think this is in a similar vein where if there was like a young kid in my life that was kind of dealing with grief, I think that I would show them this. And I will say the last level I watched I want to say the YouTube channel is Gabe and the Goat. They don't have a lot of subscribers and their videos don't have a lot of likes, but they pretty much walked through the whole game. They did 2 chapters at once, and you could tell they were like speed running it, like they played it several times, because there was a very calculated way that they completed the puzzles. Like I watched I watched them for if I got stuck on a puzzle. And then there was when I watched the last couple of chapters on their channel, there was a lot of, move this to move that to move this, and then all of a sudden, boom, you're at the end of the puzzle. But what I think is amazing is one of the last levels you're in is like this machinery, and you have to unplug the machinery. And I don't know if that was an allegory for being in a hospital. Again, I didn't see the last chapter to see where it wrapped up, but I do know in the beginning you have to write your own eulogy, and that is very, very powerful to talk about the person, stuff like that. So I think in a way there's like an audio text bubble that comes in towards the end of like, I don't want to lose you again. Please come back. And maybe this could be the unplugging of the machine. You have to say goodbye. I've talked about that in my own life, having to do that. And that is terrible. And I hope that no one ever has to do that. So, yeah, I mean, again, I feel bad that I couldn't complete it. I will say, I do, reading the Steam comments, I know it's probably a smaller team, but there was many people that were complaining about bugs. And some people were just stuck because the puzzles were pretty difficult. And so I think some of these puzzles are head scratchers. And Gabe and the Goat, I'll put the YouTube channel in the show notes on YouTube. But like they really saved my bacon and a lot, like doing, fixing a lot of these puzzles and stuff like that. It's again, it may sound negative. I don't think it's negative. I think what it does is this book just says, well, we're not going to try to hit people over the head with a massive message. They again, on their website, they said their whole inspiration was children's books. So kind of to boil everything down and be like my first tale of grief, as it were, quote unquote, I think is very commendable. And last night I was very frustrated because obviously I had this bug. I couldn't progress. You get so far in a game, and I know, if I watch the walkthroughs that I've been watching, I probably could complete everything much quicker. But I was very frustrated, but then I kind of sat with it a bit like I do, recorded this morning and thought, if this is, what they're trying to tell in their thing, I mean, I don't think they're trying to, like A Space for the Unbound was from a much different perspective of grief and death and all that kind of stuff. We're going to boil this down to like its most basic things. It is important to move on when someone dies, which I've talked about that. It isn't about forgetting people or not learning the lessons they've taught you, but understanding that this will be a thing. I think that this game does a great service by just stripping everything down to its most basic elements and saying, this is what it is. We're going to use this very simple strip back art style, which again isn't a negative. I think actually helps the storytelling because, and we're just going to say, listen, it's important to, I can imagine them in the writing process, them overwriting this in a way like, okay, we got to put this and them saying, no. We just want to say, hey, it's important to move on, because it is like a narrated storybook. So like, again, I'm upset I couldn't finish it for the bugs that I experienced. Maybe I'll report back and be able to come to you maybe a year from now and say, hey, I was able to, fix it. I was able to replay it, which there's another game in my catalog, which I mentioned I'm going to do that. I have another version of Crystalis, which is my favorite game of all time. I'm going to play that version and see if that works and I'm able to beat it. Apparently, again, through walkthroughs I've seen, Crystalis only takes a few hours, and How to Say Goodbye only takes a few hours. So, sorry, this is a little bit of a shorter episode, but, when you experience a game-breaking bug, and these are older games, and I have, 4, 6 subscribers, so I don't really know how to reach out to PR and be like, hey, what's going on with this, Anyway, before we leave, again, it's a shorter episode. Before we leave, I want to remind you guys that this podcast will hit my website, www.gamewithgrief.com, Monday morning at 7 a.m. Please go there. Let me know what you think of the show. Leave a comment. If you want me to talk about a game, you can leave it there. You can also subscribe to the show on either Apple iTunes, the Google Play Store, Spotify, Amazon Music, and on Spotify, Monday evening, the video of the podcast will go up. So you're looking at my face right now. You'll be able to see that on Spotify. You can also subscribe to the podcast in either Apple iTunes. Well, I said that already. Apple iTunes, but interact with me at Just Little Joe on Twitter, and you can write to me at gwgpodfellows@gmail.com. Go there. If you have a suggestion for a show, let me know. If you have, maybe figured out how to get rid of the game-breaking bug, and maybe I can go back and play How to Say Goodbye. But sorry, I tried. I don't know what to do when there's a game-breaking bug. I will say, I said it again to finish up, kudos to the team for just turning this simple idea turning this into a simple study of grief, which again is not negative. I think it's good. This kind of stuff is good. And again, if I had a small child, I would probably allow them to play this game to say, this is what it is. So have a good week, and I will talk to you guys again